Corky Lee, a photojournalist who spent 5 decades spotlighting the often ignored Asian and Pacific Islander American communities, has died. He was 73. Lee died Wednesday in New York City's Queensboro of complications from COVID-19, his family said in a statement. His passion was to rediscover, document and champion through his images the plight of all Americans but most especially that of Asian and Pacific Islanders, his family said. The self-described undisputed unofficial Asian American photographer laureate, Lee used his eye to pursue what he saw as photographic justice. Almost always sporting a camera around his neck, he was present at many seminal moments impacting Asian America over a 50-year career. He was born young Corky Lee in New York City to Chinese immigrant parents. He was the first child in his family to go to college, graduating from City University of New York's Queens College. A self-taught freelance photographer, Lee aimed his camera lens on a slew of subjects from anti-Vietnam War protests to police brutality. Over the years, his photos have appeared in the New York Times, Time magazine, the New York Post, New York Daily News, the Associated Press and Asian American outlets. Most recently, he was documenting anti-Asian racism brought on by the pandemic. Lee was there when Asian Americans took to the streets to protest the lack of jail time for the killers of Vincent Chin. The 27-year-old Chin was beaten to death in Detroit in 1982, a time when Japan was being blamed for the U.S. auto industry's decline. The two laid-off white auto workers who killed Chin, who was Chinese, assumed he was Japanese. They were convicted of manslaughter but got just 3 years of probation. In 2017, Lee organized a vigil outside the Nevada home of one of Chin's attackers. An event that had an indelible influence on Lee's desire for more Asian representation was the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. In previous interviews, Lee spoke of being in junior high and coming across a picture from the 1869 completion of the railroad in Utah. The iconic champagne photo featured almost no Chinese workers, even though they made up the majority of the labor. In 2002, Lee gathered some of those laborers' descendants in the same spot for a reenactment. More than a nice gesture, Lee felt the anniversary photograph was restoring Asians into the history of the country they helped build. He went on to recreate the photo on more than one anniversary. Lee also believed in paying it forward to Asian American journalists coming after him. He was a founding member of the New York chapter of the Asian American Journalists Association. He is credited with helping raise more than $100,000 in scholarship funds through annual photo auctions. Aja is heartbroken over the loss of our beloved Corky Lee, a trailblazer whose career has been instrumental to our collective understanding and appreciation of the history, triumphs and struggles of Asian America, Aja President Michelle Yee Lee said in a statement. A private funeral service will be held at Wah Wing Sang Funeral Home in New York. Lee is survived by his brother John.